I'm sure everyone remembers the King of the Hill episode, Pigmalion. This particular episode originally had been produced for Season 5 as a Halloween special, as evidence to its production code 5ABE, but it was pushed back to Season 7 due to its dark and disturbing content. Even when it was first aired in 2003, it was banned outright for many years afterwards because of how it ended. For those who are unaware, while moving to a Cavator belt, this episode's antagonist, Trip Larson, is momentarily given a shock to the head, to which it seems to cure his schizophrenia. The scene then cuts back to Peggy and Luann while he off screen. Now, this is where it gets interesting. According to the urban legend, in the original airing of the episode, you could briefly see Trip's bloody, mutilated corpse hanging off of a hook in the background, while Peggy and Luann rejoice over their little victory. However, no copy of this ending seems to exist anywhere, not even on the internet. That's where I come in. I asked a couple of my friends to sleuth around, looking for any evidence that the original ending may have existed at one point. For days on end, they would hound Mike Judge, the other people who worked on The King of the Hill, asking if there was any changes they had to make after the original broadcast in 2003. Stormy and Justin, yes, they are my friends' names, told me that whenever they brought up the original ending to Pigmalion, the crew members would either desperately try to change the subject in an attempt to avoid answering the question, or just hang up on them without hesitation. Frankly, I found this to be quite odd, so we decided to take a trip up to Scarminio to see if we could get any answers there. When we made it to Scarminio, we made sure to ask all around if anyone has seen the original ending to the episode King of the Hill, where it had been banned for years. No one seems to know that what we were talking about. All throughout our investigation seemed fruitless. At least we thought so, until we met the man who could one day blow his case wide open. For transparency reasons, we will call him Todd. He was in his late 20s and he was a bit overweight. He wore a big round glasses that seemed too big for his head, and it had looked like he hadn't bathed in years. We asked Todd if he knew about the original airing of Pigmalion and how the ending went. He told us that yes, that he'd seen the episode when it first aired, but he could tell us that how the episode ended. It was like really messed up, man, he said. I'd never seen anything like it. When Trip was on that Cavator belt and we saw that spike coming down, it was all over for him. Right after we saw it, it then cut to a scene of the Cavator belt being splashed with lots of blood, but it was only for a few seconds. What happened next? I asked curiously. Well, it then cut to Peggy and Luann getting sprayed by blood, like someone was pounding a human corpse with a meat tenderizer, and blood splattered was landing every which way. Then I saw it. What remained of Trip fell off into the Cavator belt and onto the floor. His remains were drawn with a lot more detail than usual, almost like they were traced from a crime scene photo or something. You sure about that? Pretty sure. Anyway, after Peggy and Luann had their talk, the episode then cut to Trip's mangled body one more time before going to the credits. It was so jarring to see what it looked like rotoscope pile of human remains on the floor, only to have upbeat music over the credits as usual. Stormy couldn't help but gasp at this. This was just too incredible to listen to. Jesus, I feel so sorry for you, poor soul, she told Todd. Do you have a VHS copy of the ending or something? No? Sure. But I must warn you, it's been better days. He left us for a minute to find the tape. While we waited, we thought to ourselves that this is it. The moment of truth. This will confirm this once and for all that he was telling the truth. He came back a moment later with the tape in hand. Well, guys, here it is, he announced it to us. The tape you've been asking for. Cool, I said. Can we watch it now? Sure. So we started watching the tape. The brief parts when we saw Todd fast forward through the tape didn't seem to be too out of the ordinary, at least by King of the Hill standards. We got to the part where we wanted to see the ending. The usual stuff happened. Peggy and Luann trying to get away from Trip, them tampering them with the controls onto the conveyor belt, Trip getting zapped in the head and being cured out of his schizophrenia. Then we saw that Todd was talking about. Trip saw the spike coming down and was killed soon later. Drops of blood and brain matter spilled out onto the conveyor belt and onto Peggy and Luann. The two women seemed so traumatized having to witness a man being scubered to death right in front of them. However, it didn't seem to last long. As soon as they started talking about this, how Luann was now in her own woman or something. The final scene was a close-up of Trip's mutilated corpse, which had just fallen off the conveyor belt, and was not nearly as detailed as Todd remembered it. It stayed on the bloody remains for what felt like minutes on end, before cutting to the credits. After the episode ended, Todd removed the tape from the VCR and thanked us for watching it with him. My friends and I will never forget what we saw that day. We have nightmares about how Trip died of all the time, and I'm pretty sure Todd does too, but one question remains: who started the rumor about Trip's corpse hanging in the background? The world may never know. And that, my little pretties, was King of the Hill, the original airing of Pigmalion, a creepypasta. My final thoughts on this story? Oh my goodness. This story was honestly really good. Surprisingly for a King of the Hill creepypasta, it is a really perfect, well-made creepypasta. I do remember Dave the Useless narrated this story about 2 years ago, maybe almost 3 years ago. I'm not really sure when he narrated it, but I don't know what month he narrated it, but it was around that time. But I could definitely say I really found this story to be, it's a pretty good creepypasta. Yeah, there was blood. There was a few cliches and that were added, such as the episode being on a VHS tape. Basically the whole thought of Trip, having his mutilated corpse and orbs with blood. I mean, that actually really worked for King of the Hill, because I can honestly see this, being the case with King of the Hill, because this is not too out of the ordinary for King of the Hill. I am going to be completely honest. This isn't too out of the ordinary for King of the Hill. Despite the fact that I haven't watched King of the Hill in oh god, it's been a long time since I actually read that story. I remember reading this story sometime back. I believe when Shadow Reader narrated this. I believe it was on his old channel. I believe it was in 2000 and 2018 or something. I can't really remember, but I remember this King of the Hill creepypasta. It's actually, this one actually provided pretty good context as to, what actually was the original episode going to be about. I honestly really enjoyed that. The fact that the one death of, Trip dying, despite that, I honestly found this story to be, quite amazing. And I gotta say, I remember Shadow Reader narrated this story at one point. I really do hope Shadow Reader does plan to re-narrate this one or re-upload the story that he did. I really hope he decides to re-narrate this one, because this one, despite the fact that it was, not, not too cliched, well, it does have a few cliches, but it actually plays out well with the story. I'm really impressed that the author managed to put his or her time and effort into making this, believable. It is completely a pretty good original story, even though it's a little cliched, but I still found this one to be enjoyable. I can't seem to find out who the original author of this story is, so as I'm going to say, if the original author of this story happens to come across this video and he or she or they comment, let me know that they're the ones who wrote the story, I'll be sure to give them proper credit. But as of now, I'm just going to leave this as anonymous until I find out who the original author of the story is, because I'm still trying to figure out who the original author of the story is. I have to say, pretty good story. I do find it to be enjoyable and well made. It's pretty amazing. I still really find this to be, a really good creepypasta. Maybe not the best one in the world, but definitely one of the good ones. So, with that being said, with that being the case, I'm going to sit here and just say this is just simply my own personal opinion. If you happen to disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas. This is just simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story is definitely a 10 out of 10. Well made, definitely fun to do. I really enjoyed this pasta. I really personally think this one actually is, it has a good concept in that, and it seems to be one of the fewer lost episode pastas that are good. So, with that being said, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're new to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring the bell for notification to when I upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.